Octavian ended the Roman Republic. The Battle of Actium, BCE. Cold open. September 2nd. 31 years before the birth of Christ. The Ionian Sea. 500 warships sit in the water. On one side, Mark Antony, Rome's greatest general, the man who inherited the legacy of Julius Caesar, the man who controls the richest half of the known world. Behind him, Cleopatra VII of Egypt. Her gold, her fleet, her empire. On the other side, Octavian, 23 years old when this war began. Caesar's adopted son, a man his enemies called weak, sickly, unfit for battle, a man who had never won a war on his own. And yet, one of these men is about to lose everything. Not just the battle, not just the war. Everything. His army, his ships, his reputation, his future, his life. And when it is over, the Roman Republic, 500 years of history, 500 years of consuls and senators and the will of the people, will be dead. Forever. One man will rule the world. The question is which one? Stakes. Understand what is at stake here. This is not a border dispute. This is not a skirmish over a province. This is the final battle for the soul of Rome. For 2 decades, Rome has been tearing itself apart. Caesar, Brutus, Cassius, Pompey, Crassus, name after name, battle after battle. Romans killing Romans. The Republic bleeding out one civil war at a time. Actium is the last wound. After this, there is no more Republic. After this, there is only one man. The question is, who forged him? If you want to discover how the most powerful civilization in history ended itself in a single afternoon, stay with us. CT Bridge. Before we go further, if you are watching this and you have not yet subscribed, do it now. This channel exists to bring these moments back to life, not as dry dates and names, as what they actually were. Chaos, ambition, blood, genius. Leave a like if you want more. Now, let us go back to where this really begins. Backstory, the world before Actium. The year is 44 BCE. Julius Caesar is dead. 23 stab wounds on the floor of the Senate. The conspirators thought they were saving the Republic. Instead, they lit the fuse that would destroy it. Rome fractures instantly. On one side, the conspirators, Brutus and Cassius, backed by the old Senate families who believed Rome should remain what it had always been. On the other, Caesar's men. 2 of them matter. The first is Mark Antony, Caesar's right hand, his co-consul. A soldier's soldier, barrel-chested, charismatic, the kind of man legionaries would follow into the underworld. He was supposed to be Caesar's heir. He was not. Caesar's will named someone else. His great-nephew, a sickly teenager from a provincial town, a boy almost no one had heard of. Gaius Octavius, 18 years old. When Antony heard the news, he reportedly laughed. He should not have laughed, because within 3 years this boy, this nobody, this pale, quiet, calculating boy, would outmaneuver every man in Rome. He would form an alliance with Antony, destroy the conspirators at Philippi, and split the Roman world in 2. The agreement was simple. Antony takes the east, the rich half. Egypt, Syria, Greece, Asia Minor. Octavian takes the west. Italy, Gaul, Spain, the legions. A temporary solution. Both men knew it. Temporary solutions in Rome always ended in war. Antony and Cleopatra. Now understand what happens to Antony in the east. He goes to Alexandria, and there he meets Cleopatra VII. Do not reduce this to a love story. That is the version Rome told later, the version Octavian's propaganda machine hammered into every speech, every poem, every public inscription. The reality is more complex. Cleopatra is not simply a beautiful woman. She is a pharaoh, the last of the Ptolemaic dynasty. She speaks 9 languages, including Egyptian, the only Ptolemaic ruler in 3 centuries to bother. She is brilliant, politically ruthless, and she understands something very clearly. Egypt cannot survive alone. Rome will eventually absorb it. Her only protection is a Roman protector powerful enough to keep the wolves at bay. First Caesar, now Antony. Their alliance produces children. It produces the donations of Alexandria, a ceremony in which Antony formally grants Roman provinces to Cleopatra and her sons. Caesarion, Cleopatra's son with Julius Caesar, is declared co-ruler of Egypt and legitimate heir of Caesar himself. This is the moment Octavian has been waiting for. He takes Antony's will, obtained illegally from the Vestal virgins who kept it, and reads it to the Senate. The contents are devastating. Antony wants to be buried in Alexandria, not Rome. He has named Caesarion as Caesar's true son. He has given Roman lands to foreign children. In one afternoon, Octavian does not attack Antony the Roman. He attacks Cleopatra the foreigner. He persuades the Senate to declare war not on a citizen, that would be civil war, politically dangerous, but on the Queen of Egypt. Antony just happens to be standing next to her. It is perhaps the most brilliant political move in Roman history. The trapped Titans, Agrippa's Campe, 31 BCE. Western Greece. The coast near Actium. Antony has assembled his forces here for the final push. His army is formidable. 100,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, 500 warships. Cleopatra's Egyptian fleet, 60 vessels carrying the war treasury. Enough gold to pay every soldier for years. On paper, Antony wins this war. But Octavian has something Antony does not. He has Marcus Agrippa. Agrippa is Octavian's greatest general. Practical, methodical, brilliant. The kind of commander who wins wars not through glory charges but through logistics. Strangulation. Patience. He does not attack Antony's fleet directly. He attacks Antony's supply lines. One by one, Agrippa seizes the ports along the Greek coast. Methone. Corcyra. Leucas. The ports Antony needs to feed his army. The ports Cleopatra's supply ships use. Antony's army camps at Actium, the Gulf of Ambracia, a sheltered bay on the western Greek coast. It should be a strong position. It becomes a prison. The summer of 31 BCE is a death camp. The bay is hot, brackish. The water is foul. Disease moves through the camp like a slow fire. Malaria, dysentery, men dying not from swords but from what crawls in standing water. Desertions begin. Not soldiers, generals. Amyntas of Galatia, Diotarus of Paphlagonia, King Bogud of Mauretania. One by one, Antony's allied kings walk out of the camp and present themselves to Octavian. Then the Roman senators begin to leave. Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, one of Antony's most trusted commanders. He rows a small boat across the bay one night and surrenders to Octavian. He is sick. He will die within weeks, but he chooses to die on the other side. The defections are not just military losses. They are a message. The men who know Antony best are choosing Octavian. By the time September arrives, Antony's army has shrunk from disease and desertion. His ship's crews are undermanned. He has stripped grain and soldiers from his land forces to fill the rowing benches. There is no good option left. Antony calls a war council. His general Canidius Publius argues for withdrawal into the interior. Abandon the ships. March east. Use the land where Antony is strongest. Fight Octavian on ground he knows. Cleopatra refuses. She needs the ships. She needs to get the treasury back to Egypt. Without that gold, there is no future for either of them. The war council splits. Arguments grow into accusations. In the end, Antony sides with Cleopatra. They will fight at sea. But there is something the historians notice only later. Before the battle, Antony orders sails loaded onto the warships. Warships do not use sails in battle. They use oars. Sails are for speed. Sails are for running. Antony already knows what this battle is going to be. September 2, 31 BCE. Dawn. The Gulf of Ambracia. Antony's fleet moves to the mouth of the bay. 230 warships. Heavy quinqueremes, massive floating fortresses, towers on their decks, heavy bronze rams at their prows. Beside them, on the right wing, Cleopatra's 60 Egyptian ships carrying the gold. Octavian's fleet waits outside, under the command of Agrippa. 400 ships. Smaller, lighter, faster. Liburnians and triremes. Built not to crush enemy ships, but to outmaneuver them. For hours, nothing. Both fleets sit. Antony waits for a favourable wind that will let him break through. Agrippa waits for Antony to commit. The wind does not come. The sun climbs. Around noon something shifts. A breeze. From the northwest. Antony cannot wait any longer. His men are sick. His supplies are depleted. He gives the order. The fleet advances. The battle that follows is not the thunderous clash of armies that history usually records. It is a grinding, desperate, confused fight in open water. Antony's heavy ships try to close with Agrippa's lighter vessels, to grapple them, to board them. Roman against Roman on the decks of warships. Antony's men are trained soldiers. In a boarding action they win, but Agrippa's ships do not let themselves be caught. They dart. They circle. They attack from the flanks, aiming oars at rowers, cutting propulsion, leaving heavy ships stranded and helpless. For hours the two fleets are locked. Then Cleopatra moves. Her 60 ships positioned in the centre rear suddenly run up their sails. She breaks through the gap between the northern and southern halves of the battle line, through the fighting ships, through the smoke, out into open water, south, toward Egypt, toward safety. She takes the gold with her. The moment Antony sees her break free, he does something his officers will never forgive. He follows her. He transfers from his great flagship to a smaller, faster vessel. He gives no orders to his fleet. He gives no signal to his army. He simply leaves. His men do not know what has happened. They keep fighting. For 3 more hours, Antony's fleet holds position, waiting for a commander who is already miles away. Then the ships start to burn. Agrippa had prepared fire weapons. Small boats loaded with burning materials rowed into the flanks of immobilized ships. The heavy quincorims, unable to maneuver, catch fire one by one. When the smoke clears, the battle is over. 5,000 men are dead. Antony's fleet is destroyed or surrendered. His land army, 100,000 soldiers who watched the battle from the shore and saw their general flee, surrenders to Octavian 7 days later, without a fight. He pursues Egypt. Antony reaches Egypt ahead of Octavian. What happens next is the slow collapse of a man who has lost not just the war but himself. He learns his land army has surrendered. He sits alone on the beach at Alexandria for days. He speaks to no one. He eats nothing. He is described by sources as a man already dead. Cleopatra locks herself in her mausoleum with her treasure. A false rumor reaches Antony that she has died. He falls on his sword. He does it badly. The wound is not immediately fatal. He is carried to the mausoleum. Cleopatra will not open the door. She fears Octavian's soldiers. She and her attendants haul Antony up through an upper window with ropes. He dies in her arms. August 1st, 30 BCE. Octavian enters Alexandria. Cleopatra asks for terms. She wants her children to inherit Egypt. She wants dignity. She wants survival. Octavian gives her nothing. He plans to take her to Rome, to parade her in chains through the streets, the final image of his victory. The foreign queen who seduced a Roman general and nearly destroyed the Republic. Cleopatra understands this. On August 12, 30 BCE, she is found dead in her chamber. The method, a matter of debate for 2,000 years. A snake, possibly an asp. Poison hidden in a comb or a fig basket. Perhaps a needle. It does not matter. What matters is what she understood and what she refused to allow. Octavian is deprived of his trophy. He buries her beside Antony. Then he kills Caesarion, Julius Caesar's biological son, 17 years old. Octavian cannot allow him to survive. A living Caesar is a competing Caesar. He is captured and executed. The line of Julius Caesar, biological and legitimate, ends in a ditch in Egypt. Aftermath, the Republic dies. Octavian returns to Rome. He is 32 years old. He has eliminated every rival, every general, every king, every competing claim to Roman power. What he does next is the most important thing about him. He does not make the mistake Caesar made. Caesar declared himself dictator perpetuo, dictator in perpetuity. He sat in the Senate wearing a purple robe. He received honors like a god. He frightened men who had grown up believing in the Republic. And they killed him. Octavian gives Rome the illusion of the Republic. In 27 BCE, he stands before the Senate and offers to return all his powers, all his provinces, all his legions. The Senate refuses. Theatrically, Octavian accepts their insistence. He is granted the title Augustus, the revered one. He becomes the first citizen. Princeps. Not a king officially. Not a dictator. A servant of the state who happens to control every legion, every province, every major decision in the empire. He will rule for 44 years. He will die in his bed at the age of 75, the most powerful man in the history of the world. On his deathbed, he reportedly asks his friends, "Have I played my part well in the comedy of life?" Then he tells them, "Applaud. The Republic is over. The empire has begun. 500 years of Roman democracy, imperfect and brutal and magnificent, has been replaced by one man. The man no one took seriously. The pale, sickly teenager who laughed at last. Elevri AC. Here is what Actium actually was. Not a great battle. Tactically, it was almost a non-event. A breakout. A flight. A fleet abandoned by its commander. Actium was not won by military genius. It was won by what came before it. The propaganda campaign that turned a Roman civil war into a foreign invasion. The naval blockade that starved Antony's army for months before a single ship engaged. The political maneuvering that stripped Antony's allies one by one until he stood nearly alone. Octavian did not win by being the better soldier. He won by being the better Roman. And this is perhaps the real lesson of Actium. The greatest battles are not always decided on the day they are fought. They are decided in the months and years before, by men who understand that war is only the last argument, and that the men who win are those who have already won everything else before the swords come out. Mark Antony was the greatest soldier of his generation, and he lost, because he stopped being Roman, because he chose Alexandria over Rome, Cleopatra over his duty, gold over loyalty, because when the moment came, he followed a woman through the smoke instead of staying with his men. His soldiers held position for 3 hours after he left. 3 hours, waiting for a general who was already gone. That is either the saddest or the most extraordinary thing in this entire story, depending on how you choose to read it. Rome did not die at Actium. Rome became something new. The question Augustus spent his entire life trying to answer is, what came after better than what was lost? 2,000 years later, we are still arguing about it. Outro CTA. If you made it this far, you know the answer. This is what history actually is. Not textbook dates. Not kings and queens reduced to bullet points. It is this. Men making choices that unmake the world. If you want more stories told this way, subscribe. Leave a comment. Who was right? The man who chose love and power and lost everything, or the man who chose strategy and patience and won the world? The argument is still